everyone. Welcome to this week's Fireside Creators. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sherry Pallas. For this week's show, I am chatting with Dan Held about love and fear and if they can coexist. Spoiler, they can't. Please remember to keep all comments and questions related to the show topic and that this is a safe space. Thank you for joining us, and I'm looking forward to all of your comments and questions. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, grant StreamYard access so we can see your name when you have a comment or a question. It's not really that big of a deal unless you want to know your name. Thank you in advance, and thank you for welcoming us into your homes and joining the conversation. I appreciate you all. Okay, let's meet our guest and get smarter. Reverend Dan Held is a retired United Methodist pastor. He now works as a licensed independent social worker in Ohio telehealth therapy with the Solder Mind Provider Group. I hope I'm saying that right. He is the author of 2 books, Redeeming Gethsemane and Love's Resurrection. And he leads workshops and spiritual formation and faith deconstruction. I would like to welcome the wonderful Dan. Hello, Dan. How are you?
Hey there, Sherry. Happy birthday, by the way. Yeah. Does everybody know this is your birthday? What an honor this is. You know, I couldn't have picked a better time to join you.
Right?
I hope you're having a good day.
I am. I'm having a fantastic day. Thank you. It's great to have you here. And I have a little confession to make. We've been friends for a while on Facebook, and we started talking more regularly because you're in my launch team for my book. But
Sure,
for the longest time, I thought you were my former boss.
Oh my!
His name is Dan Held.
Is that a good thing?
His name is Dan Held. So I just assumed that that's the way that it was going to be. You know, it's oh, Dan's on my Facebook now. And then when I get to meet you, it was like, oh no, that's not Dan. I'm much happier that you are you, though. So that works out well. I want to show your 2 books that you sent me. Thank you so much. Because of my busy schedule, I have yet to get into them, but I did read your wonderful note to me. Thank you so much. And skim through them as much as I could. So let's start off with these. What got you on these paths, and what made you write these books?
Oh, well, okay, yeah. When I started with Love's Resurrection, which really was more about my deconstruction journey, I didn't maybe put that terminology together in the books, but it really was my spiritual autobiography, or maybe my faith journey, and kind of the way I framed it was that I feel, in looking back, like my life has kind of involved 3 great spiritual awakenings. You know, we talk about America's great awakenings, but I've had at least 3 different times in my life where I changed course. And much like in your own new book, which I'm super excited about when that comes out, we really deconstruct those of us, especially who had more evangelical Christianity backgrounds, from a fear story to a love story. And my faith journey really began with one of those kind of traditional fear of God sensations, where I knew that I was a sinner in the hands of the angry God, and that really kind of got me started in a faith formation that has landed me in almost 180-degree opposite position, where I have absolutely no fear of God whatsoever, and it's the best thing that could ever happen to me. But I really thought maybe I needed to write about that, because I had deconstructed my faith away from that position that I had started with. And so just kind of hoping maybe somebody else out there might either resonate or maybe I could kind of influence other people in their own faith journey in a positive way.
You have a bit of the backstory because you read the book, but my book.
Sure.
But I was taught the same thing. It was fear of God. I was constantly looking over my shoulder. I was constantly living like, oh shit, I'm going to be in so much trouble as soon as it's
Yeah.
owned me.
Yeah.
And through my study of other religions, Buddhism actually taught me
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
true meaning of love, which is not attachment.
Right.
And
Right.
I think that we get things so convoluted where we think, oh my God, I love you, so you have to stay with me. And the whole, if you love it, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours, all of that, those cliches.
Mm.
But I realized that through my attachments, my love was more lust, or my love was more conditional. Will you love me and then I'll love you, as opposed to just being the love that I'm supposed to be. And I think that's the love of God, as opposed to the disciplinarian, judgmental asshole that so much of religion, especially evangelicalism, purports, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So where did you come out of this? I mean, was it really a whole process? Or like for me, when I started writing my book, I thought, I know what I'm going to say. And then 13 years later, PhD, all of this other stuff, it was like, wow, I learned so much. I had no idea what I didn't know. What about you?
Well, yeah, as I kind of reflected on my journey, I had to admit that my first, what I call these spiritual awakenings, was really kind of late adolescence angst that we have, all of us, I think, go through. For me, from maybe around age 15 to 20, in that neighborhood, I was exposed to this thing about kind of the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. You know, you had to fear God, fear the Lord, fear the Lord. And it really kind of took account of all my sins, and thinking that I really was a pretty damned kid, a damned messed up kid. And I developed what, in retrospect, after I became a therapist, not too many years after all of this, that I really had a lot of anxiety, which I call the faith in fear, and a lot of depression, which is really the doubt in love. And so I have to believe, in retrospect, that all of this faith in fear was kind of telling a very different story than what my real life story was meant to tell. I found that fear was telling me to take control over everything. You know, I had to always be in control.
Yeah.
And that's really the agenda that fear has in our lives, is for us to take control over everything else around us.
Okay, so real quick, let me interrupt you. So can I blame me being a control freak on evangelicalism? Can I do that?
Well, blame it on anybody you want to, but for me, it was pretty much that view that God wanted me to always be in control.
Yeah.
And God was always in control. And of course, that is not at all what I believe now, but I believed then that fear wanted me to take control over everything. And the extent to which I did that, I was robbing myself of any influence, which is what I think the flip side is, that love doesn't demand any control whatsoever, and instead it desires influence with other people.
Communion.
And so that's communion, right? So that's the collaborative kind of a relationship with, which I couldn't really have when I was afraid.
Well, and I think religion in general demands reciprocity. So when, if you're looking at it that way, like God only loves you if you accept him, and Jesus, if you accept him, if you join the group, if you become part of the clique, then we'll love you. And then that puts so much conditions on it, and it also limits our own love, right? Because we're only loving the people that love us. That's a really small circle. It just is naturally that way because it's so hard for us to love. But if we are being that love, if we take God within us, then there are no exceptions, right? Then we are just able to give it out and to do what we need to do without demanding some reciprocity. Well, I will only love you if you do this. That's what I was taught in all of my Christian school, in all of my churches. And that's fear. That's not love.
Right, right. Yeah, I like the way you phrase the, with reciprocity is in itself kind of an interesting word. As I think about it, I was exposed more to the family systems theory, as you may well be as also, where you think of a system of parts kind of interacting in a circular kind of a fashion where what goes around comes around, and we do have reciprocal control. I think when we try to control others, they try to control us back.
Yeah.
And in religion, where you have this God in control, what we do back is we try to control God, and so the reciprocity is everything becomes conditional and transactional. We try to control God because God is trying to control us. And what we really lose is that ability then to just enjoy having some influence instead of control. So I when I meet in workshops, I a lot of times will ask people to imagine having two different parents in their lives, or it could be two different friends, but one of them is really all about trying to make their decisions for them, tell them everything to do, and give them this kind of conditional response of any problem they have. Let this friend make the decision and tell them what to do. Very controlling kind of friend or parent, if that were the case. While the other person, the other parent even, is all about just kind of informing their decisions, helping them make their own decisions, make their own mind up, bearing influence, but never telling them what to do, never deciding for them or speaking for them, that kind of thing. So which of those two people then loves me the most? The person who is trying to control me, or the person who is satisfied with just trying to influence me?
Okay.
Most of us have had relationships with both kinds of people in our lives. And we feel loved, I would contend, more by the person who's just trying to influence us, not the person who's trying to control us.
True.
So we and then we try to kind of mirror that back. I think we become reciprocal in our response, and so we can either love the person who's loving us, or we can fear the person who's fearing and trying to control us. But I would contend that fear and love have just opposite agendas.
Yeah. Well, and the agenda is the key, right? Because if you are loving with an agenda, it's really not love, it's control.
Right. Yeah.
I was taught that control was love. I was taught that berating someone was love. You have to really, I make a joke of it now, like my trolls online and stuff, and call me all of these horrible things. And it's like, oh, you must love me.
Well, when you think about it, that's exactly what happens in domestic violence situations, where you have the person, I love you so much, is dare I even say the old O.J. Simpson scenario of I loved her so much I had to kill her. I mean, he didn't put it in that terms, but I think the control freak in a domestic violence relationship is very much thinking that it's about love.
Yeah.
And it's really about fear.
Fear, control, and all. I mean, you can't, when I think about love and fear, I think of my mother and a lot of the evangelicals who disown their children because they're living in sin.
Sure.
And they think that that's totally loving. My mom would have assured me that she was disowning me because she loved me.
Yeah, right.
She was leaving her friendships, her relationships, family, all of that, because she was so afraid for their soul and her own, due to acquaintance and, just by association alone, anyone living in sin could doom her own soul, there was no love. There. So when people say, "I love you enough to worry about your soul in the afterlife," we're creating this hell on earth here, and there's no love there. It's still back to control. It's back to fear. When you're saying, "I'm afraid that you're going to do something," that kind of tells you where you're at. It's not based in love.
Yeah. Well, may I ask, do you think your mother was afraid you were going to hell? That, oh, if she doesn't change her ways, God's going to damn her forever, and maybe me because I'm her mother. It's almost like guilt by association.
Heard it a million times. Yeah. I mean, and when you're instructed to fear God, when you're instructed that fear is the motivation and that will keep you in line, of course you're going to get followers that do the same thing. And all it does is inflict trauma. All it does, I mean, I like to say it's the easy way out, but I don't know that it was very easy for her. I would like to value myself more to say that she really struggled with it. But ultimately, she said, God matters more than anything on earth here, so I'm going to have to disown you in order to pray for you. I mean, the Bible, the prayer journals I found from her were just, I thought, completely nutty. Writing about, what if Sherry's soul burns? She's taking her son to hell too. The angst that she felt, she thought was love.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Well, it's very sad, and I think it does happen in so many evangelical churches that the gospel is anything but the gospel. It's really
right.
It's really all about fear.
Yeah, the good news is not good news.
It's bad news, terrible news. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, today I'm getting a whole bunch of Facebook, happy birthdays and stuff. And I had a couple comments that said, I'm totally summarizing. You're getting older. You better be careful. You better accept Jesus into your life and return to Christ and renounce your heretical ways. I was told on Twitter today that even Jesus loved prostitutes.
Yeah.
But all of that again is like, happy birthday. Oh my God, be fearful. Be so fearful, as opposed to celebrating the day, celebrating the life that I am given. And like I said, again, it originates with.
Well, and quite obviously, when people come at us that way, trying to control us, that they lose all influence over us or with us, because we lose respect for we know they don't really, they're not preaching love, they're preaching fear. And so we're not going to listen. We certainly deserve to be loved, not feared, and or talked to in those kind of controlling, kind of fearful ways.
I wrote a piece today because I'm so proud of myself for my birthday today. I have spent most of my life hating myself because I was told that I was unworthy and that my value came from other people, not within myself. And today, I feel like my biggest birthday present was shedding all of that and knowing that I am valuable in and of myself, regardless of what I was told as a child, regardless of what religion indoctrinated and beat me over the head with, saying that I sucked in every way, shape, or form. Today, I have grown to the point where I do love myself, and that enables me to love everyone else, which
absolutely.
I think is, again, something that religion should have given me. Religion should, if we're going to purport God, they should never have given me the fear. They should never have given me the you're unworthy. They should have given me the love that says you are worthy of everything that you aspire to, regardless of what idiots and assholes say.
Well, and I'm so glad you could give yourself that gift today for your birthday. I just remind yourself that I am enough. I'm not less than. I'm not, this whole "I'm not good enough" or "I'm less than" message that we get in fundamentalist Christianity is so harmful, and to unlearn that and to be able to give yourself back the gift of God's love by loving yourself.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So happy birthday in that sense. Yeah, it's
Thank
such a
you.
gift, and you're such a gift. And
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're giving yourself to others in this same way.
Well, I mean, but that's what it was. It was such a dichotomy of when I woke up this morning to where when I normally wake up on my birthday going, oh my God, I just got to get through the day.
Mm.
So I really was examining it. I was like, what is different? What is
Mm.
different from this year, from the previous years? So it was a lot of self-analyzation this morning. But it was, a couple years ago, I hit rock bottom, and I was like, okay, what can I do without the need of anyone else in my life? What can I do to improve my life? I'm not going to wait for someone else to come into my life to make it better. What can I do?
Yeah, I am enough. Yeah. All right.
And every question I asked always ended in love as being the answer. So it was, I want more love in my life, then I will love more. I want, more truth in my life, then I will study more. So now, because I took that control of my life, because I relinquished the fear that religion had put on me, and all of that, and said, you know what, for the first time in my life, I'm going to do me. One of my favorite sayings is, you do you, boo. I'm doing me. And I like it. I like it because I feel like I'm doing everything that I was supposed to be doing without the fear. I'm not doing it because of obligation to get into heaven or whatever. I'm doing it because I want to be the embodiment of love. And I can't be afraid if I'm going to be the embodiment of love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's such a healthy position to take. And, as I think I've told you, my work, my work kind of evolved from, I actually went to seminary early on, right after college. I went to United Seminary here in Dayton to become an Evangelical United Brethren pastor.
Wow.
Fortunately, I dropped out of seminary, really seeking, I think, instead to find a better path to love people than I thought I could as a pastor. And I ended up becoming a therapist, getting a different graduate degree, and working more in family therapy, and just kind of finding my path in a way that was outside the realm of the church. I stopped going to church completely. I dropped out of seminary, dropped out of church, everything kind of all at the same time when I was maybe 22 years old, something like that. And I really worked more in the, if you will, a secular arena, and finding my calling was really to love people into a position of being able to help themselves. And it was really so, I don't know where I was going to go with this, but I just kind of tell you that it wasn't until later that it really came back to faith in Jesus. I was kind of in that position where I just lost all interest in anything having to do with Christianity. But I had to discover love before I could kind of come back to the faith that God really was not a God in control. God was a God who loved us and influenced us, informed our decisions, and empowered us to help one another. But really was not about judging us as less than or not enough, unworthy. All of those messages I used to kind of internalize in my evangelical background.
One of the awakenings for me was when I realized that as a parent, I would never do what I was taught that God would.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I would never be that abusive. I would never, all of that. And it was like, okay, so that was one of those awakenings where I went, okay, why am I even bothering with this then if me as a mere mortal is more loving? And my route of deconstruction was to try and make sense of it all. What is this thing that people, I mean, literally billions of people at this point throughout the millennia have thought existed, what is it? And coming to the point that it can't be easy to be holy. It can't be easy to be superior. Anything, easy is good. Lazy is good. I took tonight off of work so I can actually sit on my couch and do absolutely nothing tonight for my birthday, because that's what I want to do. Yeah. But to be, you have to act to be good. You have to actually do things to be a good person. Not sit back and say, oh, well, God forgives me and stuff like that, because that just furthers trauma. It furthers abuse. It furthers all of those things. So if it's not based in love, if it is based in fear, I reject it wholly. That is WHOLY, not HOLY.
Right, yeah,
I completely disregard it. Yeah. Because again, that's where I see as our human flaws, not something as spiritually exemplary or something that I would strive to be for.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting thing to me is that, you used the word reciprocity earlier, and I think things are reciprocal anyway. I'm kind of into this Alfred North Whitehead process philosophy, where causation is circular. It's not linear, in the sense that like the God being able to control people. That's we're people, and it's so we're going to react and we're going to relate back one way or another. The old linear idea I was always told was like the boy kicks a rock and moves the rock in a particular direction, but when a boy kicks the dog bites back, and you have circular causation in the world. I think where God is concerned, God doesn't have any control whatsoever over people. Right. God influences us, and we influence back. So we either have hurt people hurting people, or we have helped people helping people.
Right.
But in between, I think that the opportunity we all have in this life is to go from being hurt people to being helped people, or hurt people helping people. And that's really the gospel, as far as I'm concerned, is this the crucified God, Jesus on the cross really is going from being that hurt person to help the person who helps. God is all about helping us, not hurting us. And we have a choice in our faith to kind of believe that hurt people can really help people, and that helped people then can help more people. So I like, for you, I realized from your book that's going to be coming out that you had a lot of hurt that you experienced, but you turned that into that kind of, instead of hurt people or hurting people, you really are a helped person who is now helping people. And I just really admire all the help that you're giving other people because of the help that you've received, and you kind of received it from you're giving it to yourself now in this process as well.
Okay, you made me
cry. I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
Yeah, you made me cry, but thank you. Trying to bite my lips so I don't have tears running. Thank you. That was the highest compliment ever. Thank you. And yes, I mean, there was a point where for many years I said, what is all this pain for? What can I do to give it a purpose?
Find meaning in your suffering. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, try and do something like that to ease my suffering as well as others, and if I can do that, that is the ultimate goal. But I learned the lack of need of reciprocity and love at a seminar I went to. And in fact, I developed the moment of love. I don't know if you've seen it. It's up on my page. year or so ago, I got people from all around the world to stop for a moment and send love.
Okay.
And it was, you're not getting anything back. Just think of someone and send them love. Just fill the planet with just a whole bunch of love. And I learned that because the person who did the seminar said, if you're whoever you're thinking of, and for me at that point, it was my nieces, now it's my grandsons also, but if they hated you, would you still love them? And there was no hesitation. There was no pause. It was, of course, my love for them has nothing to do with how they feel about me. And that's what he said. That's true love because it doesn't need reciprocity.
Yeah.
And that's when it came into the attachments with the Buddhists and saying, again, if there's an attachment there. I remember with my ex, every time I got insecure in our relationship, I wanted to get married. I don't want to get married ever again, but if I got insecure, I needed that. I needed that reciprocity. And again, once the healing took place, and once I was like, okay, I don't need him to be love, then I didn't need any of that anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, and congratulations on your journey and on your discovery of love, what I'm calling love's resurrection, that casts out the Bible would talk about casting out fear. I think rolling away fear's heaviest stone, which is kind of what happened at the tomb. The empty tomb really is empty of emptying our fear and emptying the control that fear tries to have over us.
I love that. I never looked at it that way before, because supposedly him resurrecting instilled so much fear in his followers and stuff like that. Rolling that stone away of fear and going into the tomb and recognizing it is a really powerful metaphor for me.
Well, I think when we have faith in love, we can then have doubt in fear. As opposed to and that's kind of the mentally healthy position to take in the world. It certainly beats having faith in our fear, which then causes doubt in love, which is kind of what depression is all about.
Yeah. So how do you eliminate the fear? What happens when your fear overcomes the love that you feel, or that they are convoluted?
Well, that's a great question. I do think that we have to kind of face our fears and test them out to see if they're really fears are based a lot on assumptions. And I think questioning our assumptions and saying, where is the evidence to really support those assumptions? I think we have kind of the way I look at it, Sherry, our brains are kind of formed, the part of our brain, the limbic system that we come out of the womb with, and we actually carry with us all the way to the tomb, and it is really designed to fear anything that's different. That part of our brain, the limbic system, cannot reason; it can only assume. And so it assumes the worst case scenario and everything. We've all been there. Something new happens to us, and we just assume that it's kind of this worst possible outcome. And we need that other part of the brain that God gave us that we developed, called the prefrontal cortex, or the frontal lobe, that's capable of reasoning to attach itself to the limbic system and say, wait a minute, where's the evidence here to support the worst case scenario that you've imagined? The way I kind of talk about it in therapy is the limbic system in the brain is the part that cries fire in the crowded theater. It's always going to be the first responder. And it's always going to arrive on the scene right away, or very, very soon after the 911 call comes in. But it's going to overreact, and it's going to assume the worst, and it's going to cry fire in the crowded theater. And the rational brain kind of comes in as the fire chief to discover now it was just somebody smoking in the bathroom. You didn't need to run everybody out of the theater. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that I really think that the love portion of our brain even is the part that kind of challenges our old assumptions that we have, and makes us kind of come up with the evidence. Where is the real evidence that the worst case scenario really is going to happen?
Well, and I think the problem is that a lot of people pick up the Bible and say this, you're going to hell because of this. You're an abomination because of this.
Sure.
But those are beliefs, not evidence. Those are, okay, well, you believe that that's the truth, but where are the facts to back that up? Has someone come out of hell and went, wow, it's really bad there? Someone come down from heaven. I mean, technically heaven's so great, Jesus is still there. So,
I would contend that Jesus didn't come to get us into heaven. He came to get heaven into us. It's not what happens after we die. It's what happens before we die that really matters. And so I am still a follower of Jesus, but I don't think that the church was really following Jesus, at least not the church that I was kind of indoctrinated into as a kid.
Well, and there's an exception to every rule. There are a lot of churches that are doing wonderful things. There are a lot of people that become a more loving person from the organizations that they are a part of.
Certainly.
We're not addressing them. We are addressing where the issues are. And that fear, we're no longer being chased by hungry lions. We're no longer have the fears that we were built in, that you were talking about earlier with the limbic system and what I refer to as the amphibian brain.
Exactly.
Ancient parts of our brain that say you must have to fear. That's why we have the problems with homophobia. That's why we have the problems with all of those things, is because of the fear. And if we were just more present, if we were just more cognizant of these fears, that they're natural, but that we can stop them, that's when the love starts coming in. That's when we override the fear and say, okay, I can love you. Just saying, I don't know, for me now is such an empowering stance. 20 years ago, me saying, I don't know would make me shake. It's going to happen, but now it's like, tell me, educate me, if I'm wrong, tell me this and go from there. But to tell my mind, I don't know what is standing in front of me right now, but there's nothing to fear, eliminates all prejudice. It eliminates all the phobias, everything, just a literal brain override.
Oh, I know. It's such a freeing experience to not have to know everything.
Right. I mean, I still want to know everything. But, I have accepted the fact that I know, but of a mustard seed, for lack of a better analogy, of all of the information that's out there. And I learn stuff every day. But I wouldn't if I was still afraid.
Yeah. Well, we have, my wife and I have been very fortunate to find a church here in the Dayton, Ohio area, at least, where love is the core value all the way through our congregation. It's called Hope Collective Church. But the hope that we have is that we are all lovable. It's very LGBTQ affirming, and just a congregation that is built around inclusivity rather than trying to exclude anybody. So it's just a wonderful feeling to be part of a love fest every Sunday and every weekday that we're together in our church.
And the opposite of what we were taught with the evangelicalism, right? I mean, it is bring everybody, but make the table bigger, as opposed to those people aren't welcome because they're sinners.
All right. Yeah. We think of the gates of hell, but then we picture the gates of heaven. All the cartoons of heaven with the big pearly gates, and the gatekeeper out there being St. Peter, who's he was there, really there to cross everybody off the list and shove them out the other direction.
Yeah, with a big foot kick.
Yeah, but heaven is really able to come through us onto earth before we die. We don't have to wait till afterward, and it's kind of a wonderful feeling to be able to be a conduit for God's love here on earth, which is what we're called to be.
Well, and focusing on this life and not the afterlife.
Absolutely, yeah.
It makes things matter more. It alleviates the fear over beliefs. If you say, well, I'm scared for your soul in the afterlife, the perfect response for me is, okay, but what about now? Yeah. Let's focus on now. Let's not worry about what's going to happen after we all die, because that is not creating the love that we need here. It's creating the fear. It's creating all of those things. And fear controls people really easily. If you're afraid, I mean, the sheep will walk off a mountain. People will run into a danger if they're so afraid because they don't know where they're going. The human animal that we are is one of the only animals that run into danger as opposed to away from it. And that's because fear makes us so stupid, so easily controlled, for Big Brother to come in and go, well, you better watch out for those guys.
Yeah, in my book about love's resurrection, I had to write about how I think fear drives us, but love draws us. Fear shouts, but love whispers. And
I love that. Yes,
I think it's such a noisy world we live in, and there really is so much fear right now that's driving humanity.
Yeah.
And so, I hope we can kind of listen to each other and hear words of love, and instead of that shout of fear that goes on sometimes in our larger world context.
When you can't love your neighbor if you're afraid of him.
Oh, isn't that the truth? And we can't love God if we're afraid of God.
Right. That's not love. That is control and abuse.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, we are almost at the top of the hour. So tell me about Redeeming Gethsemane.
Okay. Well, that is, I wrote that as a book for churches, really, to use as Lenten material, a Lenten study in a small group. But here's where I think Jesus really relates to us so well. Jesus knew fear, not just, it wasn't just the fear of death, but certainly as we have the story of Gethsemane in the Bible, we're really talking about the one time that Jesus, instead of going off to pray by himself, came with his disciples and asked for them to pray with him. And of course, we know the story. They all fell asleep. And I think that's kind of where the church has always let Jesus down, by kind of sleeping through the times when we really ought to be there for the least of these. And so the book itself kind of depicts 10 different stories of different people that I've encountered and kind of read their story or interviewed them and found their stories to be either about being turned away by the church and feeling like the church really was not there for them when they needed it the most. Or five, I kind of do it in equal portions. The five that found the church wasn't there for them, and the five that found that it was. And I kind of relate to the Matthew 25 parable of the goats and the sheep and the goats, where the folks that thought that they were there for Jesus really weren't, and the ones that didn't even know, Lord, when did I see you hungry and naked and afraid, or in prison and visit you, so forth. But the whole message of when you did unto the least of these, you're doing it unto me, prevails, I think, in our Lenten message, that if we really want to be there for Jesus and redeem Gethsemane when he's afraid, and he's asking us to be with him. Don't sleep through that. We need to be the woke church, as I call it in
Yeah.
the book, that is really there for people who are the least of these, who are alone. Could be the homeless person, but it's just somebody who really needs us to be there during their worst of times and their darkest of moments.
Gethsemane is such a special story to me because, and you read it in the book, but the way that I look at it is that Jesus is the most beloved figure of all times. Fact or fiction, real human or not, he is truly the most beloved figure of all time. And if his friends bailed on him, if the government turned on him, if he had to have the strength to say, okay, I'm going to do what my purpose in life is to do, all of that gives me so much peace. When people walked out of my life, it was, well, I'm more like Jesus today. If I feel like I'm coming up against it going, why? Well, I'm being more like Jesus today. The whole Gethsemane story just resonates with me so much because it shows that we should still have our internal strength despite all of the weaknesses surrounding us. Do not hold into those weaknesses. You continue and do what you're supposed to do. We all experience it. And that just gives me I was talking about earlier about the way I feel different this birthday as opposed to the other one. That's the type of stuff that fills me up. To go, I'm not alone. Even Jesus, his friends bailed on him and went, yeah, whatever.
Well, in being alone, we are enough. We really are, even by ourselves.
Totally.
I'd like to think of it too as Jürgen Moltmann, the theologian, that talks about God being crucified, or the crucified God. God really comes to understand our loneliness by experiencing it himself. Or I think that the Gethsemane story for me is that God knows what it's like to be lonely and afraid. And
abandoned and betrayed and all of that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. So, it's like, okay, I know you claim he's the Son of God. I know he supposedly overcame death, but just those things, if he could do it, I could do it.
Exactly. Yeah. That we love is so powerful that it really it can survive alone. But it more than survive, it then wants to give itself out to others and empower other people. Where we feel powerless ourselves, sometimes we know what we really need is that's empowerment from others, and so we have that to give each other. And hey, you are so inspiring as you do this podcast. I know you minister to the world, and you have a voice that I think others need to listen to. And I hope they'll read your book when it comes out. I'm looking forward to it.
They better. Yeah, I mean, for me, when a couple years ago, when I was like, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat some worms, that childhood song.
Yeah.
I thought, but I'm full of love. What can I do with it? And that all of a sudden became, okay, let me give it away. And that filled me up more than anything, which is why I did the moment of love. It's like, I know that doing this is going to fill up a lot of people with the love that they have and show them that they don't need the love from anyone else, that they have it all in themselves. And just to teach that, I think is the true freedom that we all need.
Great. Wonderful.
Cast out the fear. Just do it. Be like Nike. Just do it.
I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So anything else that you would like to say on these two fabulous books? Oops, there we go.
Well, no, just we are in this season of Lent where I guess my best experience with Lent is that it leaves us sometimes in positions of what I call the disciples' Saturday. It's like the crucifixion sometimes has happened, but we don't see the resurrection yet. We're living kind of life in the in between,
Totally.
and our country, I think, is especially in this in between things. It's almost like everybody's waiting. We don't know. We know Fridays happen, but we don't know that Sunday's coming.
Yeah.
And I would hope that we can place our faith in love and our doubt in fear. But it's not easy. We have to kind of test out those fears and face them. Go on our own 40-day wilderness, if you tour, and find out that there is a temptation to fear, but love always wins. Love wins.
The waiting.
The old Rob Bell message.
Yeah, I mean, the waiting sucks.
It does. Yeah.
And
it's scary. Yeah.
Terrifying. I remember seeing this person who went through deconstruction and came out this other side extremely angry.
Sure.
Hardcore atheist now, angry atheist, shunning everybody who believes type of thing. And every time I saw someone like that, I would think, you just didn't hold on long enough. You didn't get through the anger. You're still holding on to it. You got to get to the point where you are no longer angry, and that's when you start to heal, because that's where the love comes in. And waiting for that and thinking, am I nuts? Should I really be angry? Should I really be afraid? Am I the one that's naive here? I have literally said, okay, God, it's all on you. Failure, success, whatever, this is all on you. You know, show me the way. I will do whatever you want me to do. But, you know, if I fail, it's on me, you know, because I put faith in you. I put faith in this mission, whatever. And I was okay with being the fool. And I know.
Well, but I do think we all go through that anger phase. Totally. Maybe part of the grief or whatever, but I think with deconstruction, as we say at our Hope Collective Church, you know, it's okay not to be okay, and there are those times when we aren't okay, when we're pissed off or we're very angry at God or whoever, and it's a Saturday experience, but Sunday isn't here yet, and so deconstruction continues. I'm going to a conference in Denver in April called God After Deconstruction. But I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Ord's work in the open.
Actually, been on the show a bunch of times.
Sure. Well, then I do think that deconstruction is one of those experiences that just is kind of never ending. It's we're all learning, we're all growing. And Sunday just isn't here yet. So we're more in the Saturday time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's all part of growth, whether it's deconstruction or abuse or trauma of any kind. If you reside in the anger and continue to hold on to it, you will never get to Sunday. You will never get to the other side of joy and happiness. And I think that's, you know, where a lot of people, because it is so scary. It is so scary to take that jump and go, okay, I'm going to have the faith that trampoline's going to be there when I take
right, jump, exactly,
you know, and go from there. But I have spent far too many times shaking and crying on the steps that I have made over the last 13 years, going, okay, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever done. And I sit here today. It's a good day. But I sit here today going, yes, I'm so glad I made it.
You made it through the rain. Yeah. It's a strange song to come to mind, but I'm thinking of there was a song that Barry Manilow wrote, I believe, and sang, I made it through the rain.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot to that, but in California right now, I know it's raining, or it's been raining, whatever. But you guys are going to make it through the rain. Okay.
I mean,
the making it through. Yeah, you kept taking the next step.
Yeah, Milli Vanilli did a song too, which you know I hold on to also. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me. I have absolutely loved this conversation. Again, audience, go buy his books. They're available on Amazon. It is Redeeming Gethsemane and Love's Resurrection. You can go to, let's see here. Hi, David. I'm so sorry. I'm just now saying hi to you. Thank you so much for wishing me a happy birthday. You can find Dan at danielkheld.com and or Higher Ground Books and Media. What are your final words? Where can people find you and all that good stuff, Dan?
Well, listen, I'm even open to phone calls. Anybody wants to send me a text, I'll get back to you. It may not be the first day, but I will respond. And if so, yeah, you'll find the number, I believe, on my website. But yeah, just go under danielkheld.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and joining me tonight and being here. I absolutely love it.
And I love that your happy birthday is really a happy and loving birthday for yourself.
Me too. It only took 54 years, but I'm here.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I'm going to send you backstage and then close the show. I'll see you in a second.
Okay. Yeah. Take care. Yeah.
Thanks. You. Another fabulous show. I love learning things and talking with people who teach me how to love better. Fantastic people, and I'm so thankful for this show. If you like the show, share it with your friends, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you all so much for watching. Next week, we have the wonderful Dr. Jennifer Bird coming back, and she will be talking about her latest book, Marriage in the Bible. And it's gonna be good, sensational, salacious, all that good stuff. Jennifer is always a joy to have on the show, and I can't wait. Okay, have a wonderful week. And as always, walk in love. Thank you so much. Mwah! See you next week.